to Facebook later.
Okay, I think we will start. Okay, it is 7:07. We'll call this meeting to order. Welcome to our regular council meeting for Monday, January the 11th. Apologies for the late start. We're having technical difficulties. Good evening, council, staff, guests, our viewing public, and the media. All of council is present, so we will forego the roll call. Council, does anyone have a disclosure of pecuniary interest? And of course, if one should arise during the meeting, you may declare it then. So we'll start right off with the agenda. Item 3, we do not have any agenda additions or deletions. So item 4, our health and safety message is brought to us by Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's virtual care appointments. COVID-19 has reinforced the value of virtual care in helping ensure families and communities are receiving care where and when needed. Being prepared in advance of your next appointment can help you make the most of your time with your doctor and have a peace of mind. Be prepared in advance of your appointment. If using an app, download it ahead of time and register for the service well in advance of needing to use it. Have key information ready, such as your list of symptoms, current medications, and allergies. Have a written list of questions ready that you want to ask so you don't forget critical concerns. Have a private and quiet space that provides you with privacy you need during your appointment so you can comfortably share personal health information. If you receive care from another physician or care service, request that your doctor consult's notes be sent directly to your family doctor. Wash your hands, keep distance 6 feet, wear a mask, and we will get through this, Hanover. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fleet. Okay, item 5, delegations. We do not have any this evening. So item 6, council and committee of the whole minutes. 6.1 is the regular council meeting minutes from December 21st. And I have resolution 0121, and I need a mover and seconder to put that on the floor. Councillor Fitzsimmons and Councillor Cable. And I'll just highlight a couple of items. You'll remember that evening, just before Christmas, we had a presentation of the 20-year service award to Chris Karcher, who is a firefighter here in town. We also had Craig McDonald, Redden Insurance, at that meeting, giving us an update on our insurance policy. And Don Smith, the chair of the Hanover Police Services Board, and Chief Knoll were present to present the business plan. And we also endorsed the Hanover Police Service as the police service of choice for the remainder of this term of council. And that's all I'm going to highlight about those, unless anyone else has comments or questions. So I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Item 7 is staff reports. And the first one, 7.1, is resolution 02-21. And it is report CAO 0121. It's from Brian Teixeira, our CAO clerk. And it is regarding an appointment to the Town of Hanover Planning Advisory Committee. So I need a mover and seconder to put that on the floor. Councillor Fleet and Councillor Dickert. Thank you. Brian?
Thank you, Worship. So as per our procedure bylaw, all council appointments to boards and committees have to be made by resolution of council. As the result of a resignation from the Town of Hanover's Planning Advisory Committee, we placed an ad in the Post, and 2 applications were received by January 4th. Mayor Patterson has reviewed the applications and is recommending that Mr. Peter Hambley be appointed to the Planning Advisory Committee for the remainder of the current term of council. There are no financial implications associated with this appointment. So the recommendation is that report CAO 0121, appointment to Town of Hanover Planning Advisory Committee be received, and that Hanover Council approve the appointment of Peter Hambley to the Town of Hanover Planning Advisory Committee.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Item 7.2, this is report DCS 0121. The subject is the 2021 budget status and safe restart phase 2 funding. It's from Chris Walker, our Director of Corporate Services and Treasurer. And I have resolution 0321. I need a mover and a seconder to put that on the floor. Councillor Hawking and Deputy Mayor Hicks. Chris?
Thank you, Your Worship. Council may remember at the December 14th budget meeting that you passed a motion that you accepted the report for the operating and capital budget, and that we be directed to limit the annual tax levy increase to 3.62, because we went through a bunch of different items and it ended up being so much money, so we had to come back and let you know, and that we would revise the proposed budget at a future meeting. Today is that future meeting. The recommendations at that meeting, council had $656,000 in savings that were implemented into the budget. So that reduced the levy down from an increase of $1,061,000, which is about 15.8%, down to $405,400, which is about 5.79%. I've given you some information there that shows you what the original levy was 8.059200, and it's now revised at $7,403,200. So that's your difference of the 656. So overall, from the increase from 2020 levy to 2021 would be the 5.79%. So based on that levy requirement, the tax rate would increase approximately 3.45%. On the next page, I've showed you a basic household assessment of $219,944, which is considered the average household residential assessment, would increase about $64.44, which is the 3.45%. Works out to about $5.37 a month, or 18 cents a day. Little less than a cup of coffee if you went to Tim Hortons, because I know they go up about 25 to 50 cents a day. And based on 100,000 assessment in 2021, so taking 100,000, much easier for people to round, depending if they have a $300,000 house, 200,000, 400, etc., would be about $29.30 a household, or 3.45%, which equals about 8 cents a day on every 100,000 of assessment. So if you had a $500,000 assessment, obviously it'd be about 40 cents a day. So then on December 16th, the town received notification from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing that we were successful in obtaining some funding in the amount of $1,030,000 under the Safe Restart Agreement. You may remember back in October, we applied for the phase 2 funding, and that we were receiving $985,000 of that is for the 2020 operating needs, and the other $45,000 is for the 2021 needs. So council may remember in our budget, $20,000 was included in the council portion for future COVID expenses. As the municipality now has been advised of this additional $45,000 in funding being provided to the municipality, you may wish to choose some options. We've provided 3 options there for your decision. So we can include this funding in the 2021 budget to reduce the levy down by about $45,000, which reduces it from the 5.79% increase to a 5.15% increase, which will result in an overall tax increase of 2.82 versus the 3.45. So basically it goes from $29.30 for every 100,000 down to $23.96 for every 100,000 assessments. The other option is you can utilize these funds as revenues and increase any expenses by $45,000. So basically you could restore one of the items that was removed from the budget from December 14th, resulting in no change to the tax levy or tax increase. Or you can utilize these funds in 2021 for possible COVID-19 related expenses or losses of revenue. You may remember at the time when we passed it, the 28-day provincial lockdown was not in place. So some of those revenues we were anticipating for the month of January will not be materializing. So the addition of $45,000 from the SRA phase 2 can be used in 2021 for any of the above options, as we noted. Based on the criteria of the phase 2 program, the municipality's operational deficit during 2020 was calculated to be $985,000. The government noted that some municipalities were offsetting some of their operating deficits by using reserves and reserve funds. And council may remember when we talked about it in September, we talked about using approximately $333,000 of our reserves. So we weren't going to put money to reserves, we were going to take some money out. We were not going to do a lot of the stuff that we had anticipated so that our deficit could be less. So in an effort to be consistent across all the applications, the reserves and reserve funds were removed from the calculations so that we actually brought that back on so that we're supposed to be able to take all our reserves reserves funds as budgeted in 2020 and make sure they continue on as is. They didn't want us to go backwards on it. They didn't say anything about capital because everything was all about operations in the phase 2 funding. So the link to the strategic plan is obviously the sustainable municipal operations. And our recommendation is that this report be received and that council provide direction with respect to either option 1, option 2, or option 3 as outlined in the report.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks.
Okay, let's start. Who wants to go first? Councillor Fitzsimmons.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think without question, our current economic climate, there's a lot of people struggling to make ends meet and pay their bills. And for that reason, I think number 1, reducing the levy, albeit it's not a ton of money. Every little bit helps. I think it's important that we make a statement that we're going to try to do everything possible to make our taxes affordable this year, and we'll take a step toward that even more.
Thank you. Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you for your report, Chris, and thank you very much for all the work that you did putting in that application. Obviously, without this $1 million, we'd be in a completely different situation. I'm just wondering, do you have an estimate for the revenue and expenses during the lockdown, like what we would project that this 28-day lockdown would look like for our 2021 budget? Like,
No, I don't have that information. It really depends on Parks and Rec. I know they were doing a lot of swimming lessons and special advance. Sherry might be able to give us a little bit more on that. It won't add up to 45,000. I can guarantee that, but
okay.
There might be more expenses with COVID and stuff during
Sherry?
the year. We only put 20,000 in there.
Sherry?
Well, just Councillor Cable, I haven't done that number crunching yet. Obviously, we are going to have some savings from a staff wages perspective. We are very much crossing our fingers that we will be able to offer a winter swim session of some sort. In fact, we're making those preliminary plans. And secondly, we will have some savings around energy. We've reduced the pool temperature and we do some mitigation that way accordingly, but I haven't actually done the number crunching to see what that means yet. Certainly that's something we could do, but we don't have that information immediately this evening.
Oh, excellent.
Thank you.
Very much.
Councillor Cable, a follow-up or?
No, I would also support Councillor Fitzsimmons' statement around option number 1. I think that it's a great way for us to show support for our community. And I think that'd be coming in around a 2.82% increase makes sense to me.
Thank you. Councillor Hawking, then Councillor Fleet. Councillor Hawking?
Thank you, Worship. I'm in favor of number 3, where we allocate that money for unforeseen circumstances. And I think the 2021 is unforeseen, and I think we should plan ahead so that we have those resources. If in fact we don't need it down the road, we can apply that to 2021 budget consultations for the following year. So I believe we should keep that money in a reserve or allocated for unforeseen circumstances. Number 3 for me.
Thank you. Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've got to go with option 1. I just feel the lower we can keep our taxes for our residents, the better. You know, you fill your car up with gas, the carbon tax is in place now, and our gas is more expensive to fill up your car. You get your heating bills. I just feel that the more we can do for our residents, the better. So I'm going to go with option 1.
Thank you. Councillor Dickert.
Yes, I agree. Thank you, Your Worship. I agree that option 1 is the route we should take and keep our tax impact to our residents as minimal as possible and closer to what the consumer price index and inflation rates are running. So I support option 1.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Hicks.
I echo the sentiments of Councillor Hawking. I don't need to say any more than that. I think he made the comments that I would have wanted to have made.
Okay. And I also agree with Councillor Hawking, but we'll take the vote. And I believe option 1 will be the motion to to move it. So if there's any further comments, any follow-up, I just agree. I think it's good to put some money away for the future. We did do the budget and worked it through and made some cuts, and we don't know what's coming at us in 2021. It could be less funding. So I will call the question. All in favor of option 1? So we have 4 people in favor of option 1. And I will say, anyone in favor of option 2? None. Option 3, in favor of option 3. We have 3 people. So the motion to reduce the tax, overall tax rate to 2.82% is approved. Option 1. That's carried. Thank you. Item 7.3 is report DCS 02-21. The subject is the Municipal Transit Enhanced Cleaning Funding, and it's from Chris Walker, our Director of Corporate Services and Treasurer, and I have Resolution 0421. I need a mover and seconder to put that on the floor. Councillor Fitzsimmons and Councillor Cable. Chris, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Municipal Transit Enhanced Cleaning Funding Program is a provincial program designed to address health-related issues with respect to the COVID-19 pandemic. Direct costs for acquiring goods and services incurred from April 1st to the end of December 31st, 2020 for the enhanced cleaning of the transit system are eligible. As we are the host municipality for SMART, we have been approved by the MTO for up to $30,995 under this program. We received a letter back in June 29th from the Minister of Transportation notifying us of the municipality under this program and that information was to follow. We finally received an email December 17th regarding that we needed to have a transfer payment agreement required in order to receive the funding, and in order to release this funding, we'd also have to make sure that we have a report by the end of January 31st, 2021. So the turnaround's pretty quick. So as the host municipality, we will receive this funding in order to offset their enhanced cleaning. I've already spoken with Roger at the SMART, and we've gone through and he's aware of the amount, and we've gone through and where we can get the goods and services and the additional cleaning time that's required. So this actually is strategic direction for sustainable municipal operations. And basically the recommendation is that this report for municipal transit enhanced cleaning, MTEC, there's so many acronyms out there for funding, be received, and that the mayor and director of corporate services treasurer be authorized to complete the transfer payment agreement with the MTO as the host municipality for the Saugeen Mobility and Regional Transit Corporation for the MTC funding as detailed in this report, and that a bylaw be presented to council to authorize entering into this transfer payment agreement with the MTO. That bylaw is in tonight's meeting as well.
Thank you. That's good news for SMART. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Item 7.4, this is report FI 01-21. It is the Joint Health and Safety Committee, the 2021 policies and plans. It's from Chief Deniger. He is the Health and Safety Coordinator, and I have Resolution 0521. I need a mover and seconder to put that on the floor. Councillor Dickert and Councillor Fleet. Chief Deniger.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the Occupational Health and Safety Act indicates that an employer shall prepare and review at least annually a written health and safety policy and develop and maintain a program to implement this policy. Also, an employer must review its violence and harassment policy at least annually. So the Joint Health and Safety Committee has reviewed the policy and the work plan. The policy has remained relatively unchanged except for the addition of the launch pad within the policy. And the work plan has been modified to focus on 2021 objectives for the committee. The violence and harassment policy remains unchanged. Costs have been incorporated into the 2021 budget, and the link to this strategic plan is based on a healthy and safe community, as well as sustainable municipal operations. So it's our recommendation that report FI 0121 be received and approved by council at this time. So what I'll do is I'll just really quickly highlight each of the three documents. So the health and safety policy statement focuses on the health and safety of its workforce as its highest priority. Focuses on the location of the work as well as ensuring the proper equipment and materials. The policy also communicates that health and safety is also the responsibility of employees to ensure that they follow the safety protocols and work in a safe manner. All employees and subcontractors must follow the town's safe work practices and procedures. The Workplace Health and Safety Plan. In 2018, the town of Hanover took part in a health and safety audit with Public Sector Health and Safety Association. The results of this audit assisted the committee in designing 8 key objectives for the next 5 years, starting in 2019. The recommended priority list is located in the work plan, and page 2 of the plan outlines what specifically the committee will focus on in 2021, what priority on page 1 its focus is, the responsibility of the action, and a timeline for the activity. The violence and harassment policy statement. Again, the focus is on providing a safe and respectful work environment for all staff. The policy is in force for staff both at town-owned locations and while working at other locations. The policy applies to staff, visitors to town locations, clients, students, volunteers, and contractors. A definition of both violence and harassment is included. A commitment is made to protect staff, as well as to ensure that all staff are educated on violence and harassment in the workplace, and investigations of complaints will be fair and timely. That's a review of the 3 documents. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the chief? None. Okay, good. So all in favor of resolution 0521? That's carried. Thank you. Item 8 is committees of council minutes. And the one and only one is 8.1. This is the Emergency Management Program Committee minutes from December 16th. And I need a mover and seconder for resolution 0621 to put that on the floor. And I'll take Councillor Hawking and Deputy Mayor Hicks. Jeff, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the committee met on December 16th as part of its requirement to meet on a quarterly basis. Present for the meeting were all members, including Mayor Sue Patterson, CAO Brian Teixeira, the CEMC alternate Sherry Walden, and Laura Christian, and myself. That was neglected on the minutes, so I wanted to make sure you had that information. There were a number of documents sent to the committee prior to meeting to prepare for basically the annual review of a lot of documentation. The committee spent time reviewing the activities of 2020, including emergency control group activities, roles, and additional activities to consider. We completed a review of the 2020 emergency plan, created a plan for 2021 training and exercise activity, 2020 training competencies of the control group, planned for 2021 public education, reviewed the critical infrastructure list, ensuring it was up to date, reviewed the hazard identification and risk assessment list for the town, discussed the call tree that we use to activate an emergency situation, discussed warming centers, evacuation centers during COVID. We reviewed the training needs for the emergency management alternates in 2021 and reviewed lessons learned thus far during the present emergency. And we closed the meeting. That's really an outline of how the meeting went. If there is any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions? Councillor Dickert.
Yes, just out of curiosity, item 5.9, it says it was decided that warming centers weren't required as a result of COVID. I just wonder what would drive the lack of a need for warming centers because of COVID?
Well, with COVID, when you bring people together, you have to have a lot of strategies in place on how you're going to manage their health and safety. So it's not as simple as just saying, hey, we're open for a warming center. You now have to create a lot of COVID strategies to make sure that you've got separate locations where people that might be showing symptoms can go. And then you have to have a lot of strategies in place, and a lot of staff are required to ensure that the COVID priorities can be maintained.
Okay, so it's not so much not needing them, it's just the logistics around having one.
Logistics with COVID make it
Okay.
way more difficult than just opening up a warming center.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. So item 9 is our bylaws. We have 5 bylaws this evening, and I have resolution 0721 to put that on the floor before we have the intent from our clerk. So I have Councillor Cable and Councillor Fitzsimmons. And I'll ask Brian for the intent of the bylaws, please.
Okay, bylaw number 3140-21 is a bylaw of the town of Hanover to confirm the proceedings of the council of the corporation of the town of Hanover at its regular meeting held on December 21st, 2020. Bylaw number 3141-21 is a bylaw of the town of Hanover to approve and authorize the transfer of certain property between the town of Hanover and Blue Water Community Radio. Bylaw number 3142-21 is a bylaw to authorize the execution of the transfer payment agreement for the municipal transit enhanced cleaning program between Her Majesty the Queen and Right of the Province of Ontario, represented by the Minister of Transportation for the Province of Ontario, and the town of Hanover. Bylaw number 3143-21 is a bylaw to enter into an easement agreement between the corporation of the town of Hanover and David Urban Fisher for the construction of a storm sewer on property located at 261 2nd Street, and more specifically described as Part 1, Reference Plan 16R, and that will be determined in the town of Hanover in the county of Grey. Bylaw number 3144-21 is a bylaw to establish the rates, fees, and charges for various services provided by the municipality.
Thank you, Brian. So it's been moved by Councillor Cable, seconded by Councillor Fitzsimmons, that bylaw numbers 3140-21 through to 3144-21 be introduced and that they be taken as read a first, second, and third time, finally passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and inserted in the bylaw book. Before we vote, are there any other further questions or comments? Seeing none, I will call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Item 10 is correspondence requiring action. We do not have any this evening. Item 11 is reports and correspondence for information. The first one, 11.1, is report FI02-21. The subject is the monthly activity report for December of 2020, and it's from our fire chief, Chief Deniger. Jeff, please.
Thank you again, Your Worship. So this, as stated, is the report for December of 2020. As you can see, in December, the number 1 call is for medicals and rescues tied. Then we have false fire calls and public hazard. There was a total of 18 calls in the month, so up a little bit from 2019. For the annual fire calls to the end of December, we had medicals as number 1, false fire calls number 2, and rescues is number 3. And we finished off the year at 171 total, a reduction from 209 in 2019. We certainly saw a reduction in calls at the first lockdown for about a month and a half, which had an implication. Nobody was going anywhere, so the call volume really dropped for almost 2 months. Inspections were fairly busy with a total of 20 inspections, 20 reports issued, and 11 still in progress. We did have 1 alarm for life visit, which was compliant, so we had 100% for the month. No public education as a result of COVID. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions for the chief? Okay, good. That was for information. So 11.2, this is report PB0121. The subject is the 2020 statistics for building permits. It's from Mr. Tedford, our Director of Development and CBO. And this is for information. So Don, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Building and Development Department prepares an annual report every year to talk about the building activity, and it's for council's information. The following is a record of the 2020, including the previous 4 years for comparison purposes for council. The total number of permits issued in 2020 were 120, which is pretty well on par for 2019 through to 2016. They're all around the 118 down to 2018 has seen 131, but it's pretty average, that number. The total construction value was the highest I've seen though for all our collection of data. It's 35,337,000. The closest to that is 2017. That's when we had $20 million high school built, and it was 30,271,000. The total permit fees collected for 2020 was 470,730. And again, the other years, the comparable years would have been 2018, 2017, with around 340,000 collected in fees. The single family dwellings is a little bit of well, also to let you know at this time that we also, in order to implement these permits, we had 2 official plan amendments, 8 zoning bylaw amendments, 9 consents, 6 minor variances, and 7 site plan approvals. It was a very busy year, but that was also in a previous report on the review of the year. I just thought I'd let you know that those kind of planning applications also create those numbers of permits. But the single family dwelling seems to create a little bit of a confusion this year. 2020 has comparable with to 2016 and 2017. But the increase in 2020 from 2019 is I would consider as being unusual. And maybe because of the impacts of COVID-19. And it also emphasizes the difficulty in forecasting future construction activities with this type of pandemic going on. So, but their permits were 27 in for new dwellings. If you add the new, these are new now, new semi-detached as well. Any other type of dwelling. So in 2016, if you look at it, we had 47. We then dropped to 28 in 2017, 24 detached and 4 semis or multiple residential. In 2018, we had 45 of them built, 26 singles and 19 multiples. And then this is where we see a drop, which normally follows with our normal curve of activity for construction high time and low time. We went down to 12 dwellings and 11 multiples for a total of 23. And then all of a sudden we're back up to 60 for 2020, which is quite an increase for the number of dwellings. And we're going to be seeing, I think, more of this type of housing. The semi-detached and the towns are going to become part of our new subdivisions, where before, if you remember, they were all primarily infill. If you remember the wards, the Dick Turners, and we've built well over 400 of them in the last 15 to 20 years, and they were all on their own and were never really part of a subdivision. And now in the last year, they're becoming part of new subdivisions, the semis and the townhouses, primarily because the new planning policies out of the province want to see a higher density per hectare for dwellings. And this is one way of trying to achieve that density requirement of 25. The non-residential consists of 128 bed long-term care. The permit got issued for that last year. The gas bar and convenience store and the restaurant area is completed and finished. And there's also a new permit for another gas bar in the West End for car wash and gas bars. So we're getting 2 of those. And we have issued the initial permit for doing the demising walls and for the starting up of the stacked pancake restaurant that'll be located on the corner of the County Fair Plaza. And there is some indication, I haven't had any final permits on it or anybody discussing, but it's Choices REIT that wants to do the cannabis beside that, which would be a small 1,500 square foot store. The renovations are pretty consistent of $500,000 for the last 4 years, 5 years. Every year we seem to do $500,000 with residential or other types of renovations. During the year 2021, we're looking forward to seeing the commencement of the 128 bed facility with the finalizing of the stormwater outlet. We see a new the new construction of the gas barn car wash on the west end of the main street. That'll be welcoming there. It is also hopeful to see the former JDSS property develop into a new multiple residential facility plus a new subdivision that will incorporate 5th Avenue being extended from 6th Street through to 7th Street. Again, this report is for information only. And if there's any questions, Your Worship, I'd be pleased to answer them.
Thank you, Don. Any questions? Councillor Fitzsimmons.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm sure a question that council gets asked a great deal is pertaining to the empty marijuana plant in the industrial section. Don, is there anything you can update us and the public on regarding that for 2020?
No, there's not, other than there is people in town. Everybody's kicking tires and looking, but I see up in Owen Sound that one's moving ahead finally, but I don't know what it is that's going to make it finally drive it. I did read the whole article and did talk with regards. The one in Owen Sound is actually creating like a mini mall with 20 rooms, around 600 square feet, and people that actually sell in a retail store, they can go and wholesale and they can start manufacturing at a higher quality that they're indicating, and that they'd be in this 600 square foot room. And what they manufacture there, they can now transport to their retail area for the purposes of retailing. This I've never heard of this process before, but something that might take off in the future. But other than that, it's pretty quiet in there.
Thank you.
And Don, there's no guarantee that it will be a medical marijuana plant, right?
That's for sure. We have an exhausted site development agreement and an agreement for it to happen. So it could be anything now that could come along, or it could be again along the cannabis or marijuana. It is an approved use. We just have to refigure out a whole new agreement.
Right. Thank you. Deputy Mayor Hicks.
Thank you, Your Worship. Lots of talk in the county about affordable and attainable housing. So I guess with that in mind, it's nice to see that multi-residential number triple over what it was last year, because that's going to support the attainable piece.
Right. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you. We'll move on. Thanks, Don. Item 11.3 is report PB 02-21. This is the Municipal Law Enforcement Quarterly Report from October to December 2020, and it's from Mr. Tedford, our Director of Development and CBO. Don, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Again, this report is for information purposes for the bylaw enforcement with regards to the activities. And as you'll see, it also has the year to date. Now, this will be our first comparable that we can do now, being that we have put in place a full year now. So he has got his comments at the bottom, like parking, a total of 10 this quarter, and 88 for the year. Clean yards is 11, 59 for the year. The zoning, he's had 5 complaints with 32 complaints for the whole year. Animal control, there's 11 in the last 3 months and 62 for the whole year. Noise complaints are 3 and 19 for the whole year. Sign complaints is 2. Over the whole year, there's 14. Fences, there's 2 with 7. Property standards is 5 with a total of 28 for the year. A mobile canteen is 0 this month and 3 for the whole year. Parks, 3 complaints in the parks and 9 for the whole year. Education is 0 for this quarter and 2. Open air burning is 2 for this time and 20 for the whole year. And the COVID-19 complaints are 3 in this last quarter and 25 for the whole year. Total responses were 57 with 368 for the whole year. He indicates that parking continues to be monitored with the 2-hour maximum on the main street. Complaints received from the clean yards, fences, and open air burning are all reflective of the time of year. Animal control complaints are lower. However, complaints received will vary one quarter to another quarter. Property standards complaints received were related to interior and exterior structures issues, such as staircases, handrails, windows. He's also had some numerous complaints on heat and lack of heat and roofs leaking and stuff like that. As of December 26, they've re-entered into the provincial shutdown, and as a result, the complaints of COVID have resumed. However, he says they've received 3 complaints and all have been resolved. He is working with the Hanover Police with regards to the reenacting of the lockdown. If there's any questions, I'd be pleased to answer them.
Thank you, Don. Any questions? That's a good summary to have. Councillor Cable?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a quick question, Don. What would be an example of a complaint around signs? What might be an example of that?
It used to be one of our biggest ones, Councillor Cable. Like, it was mostly it's about the mobile ones where they move them in and don't get permits, and they leave them up for longer than the 3 months they're allowed, or if they can take 2 months or 3 months. They're only allowed to do that twice a year, and sometimes they'll leave it up for the whole year. The compliance has been a lot better, and permits have been a lot more in compliance. So that's why we're seeing a reduction in that area. It's actually good to see.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you, Don. Item 11.4 is the Saugeen Municipal Airport, the commission minutes from December 16th. Councillor Hockey.
Thank you, Your Worship. The report is basically capturing our discussion of the budget. You will see that there are suggestions of how we can increase the revenue for the airport, and while at the same time looking at the expenditure side. So Chris Walker joined us because, as you know, the town looks after our the treasury portion. It's a great addition to us. We worked through, and I think there's a growing support for an annual event at the airport where we can generate revenue for the airport. The one this year, of course, is the Snowbirds on June the 22nd. And a part of the report recognizes the discussion on that part. But basically, it's capturing everybody's comments on how we keep our budget as low as possible.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Councillor Hocking? Seeing none, we'll move on. 11.5 is the Community Improvement Partnership minutes from November 12th. Again, Councillor Hocking.
Thank you, Your Worship. The main point there that I'd like to highlight is the motion where I took the recommendation from council to the other members of the partnership that they take a breather and maybe come back in February with a look at a different way or alternate methods. And the membership on the SIP, that is the DIA and the Chamber of Commerce, took that suggestion back to their membership, and unfortunately they did not see the benefit of taking a breather. So we are in the process of disbanding the Community Improvement Partnership as we currently have it. And that doesn't mean we're not going to support initiatives in the DIA and the chamber. We will still be there as supporting. It's just going to be a new way of doing business.
Right. Thank you. Any questions? All right. Thank you, Councillor Hawking. 11.6. This is a letter from the Ministry of Children, Community and Social Services. It is announcing that there is a 5-year poverty reduction strategy. And if you go online, you can look, just do a search for poverty reduction strategy in Ontario, and it will pop up. A very comprehensive report about that. So that's good to see. Make some progress on that. Item 11.7, this is a letter from the Ministry of Energy, Northern Development and Mines. It's stating that the government has revoked Ontario Regulation 355-17 effective January 1st, and it is removing the requirement to release a new long-term energy plan every 3 years. So they will be opening a formal 90-day engagement to share perspectives and expertise. So we look forward to see what comes of that. Next on the agenda is item 12, councillor and staff updates. So we'll start with Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's been fairly quiet for the past 3 weeks. Hopefully everyone had a good new year and hopefully found some time to relax and rejuvenate with their family. I know that the current lockdown measures certainly cause additional anxiety and challenges for many of our families, and particularly those of essential workers, those that are out of work due to restrictions in our small business community, and of course, families with young children at home trying to do distance learning. So hopefully there are brighter days ahead in 2021.
Right, thank you. Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Your Worship. We had a very quiet Christmas, Heather and I. Looking forward to the new year, getting back with my committees. I have DIA meets this week and planning starts January 26th. So looking forward to that. And I hope everybody had a safe and healthy Christmas and New Year's. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Hawking.
Thank you, Your Worship. Everything that Lorna and I did over the holidays was virtual. So it's the first time in my life I haven't been with my family at Christmas, but you want to follow the advice of the medical people. And I want to urge everybody, because there's not enough people out there following the advice to stay at home, stay within your community. I mean, I set a thing out on Facebook because it's so frustrating to see people moving within communities and our COVID numbers just going up the wrong way. So please stay at home. I want to wish everybody a happy new year and all the best. Stay safe. And on my committee work, I had 2 meetings over the holidays. One was with the snowbirds. As I told you the last meeting, I'm volunteering to, I don't know what role they're going to give me. I hope it's not fundraising, but I'm looking forward to be a part of that. And April had her first meeting with the Cultural Roundtable. And if I could, I'd like to take a moment for everyone to circle their date in their calendar, because on January the 21st at 7 p.m., we are having a cultural virtual sort of information session. We've got about 9 different cultural groups agreed to participate in a sort of a 3-minute talk session. Her Worship is going to bring greetings. Thank you, Mayor. And it's our first venture into this new virtual way of expressing our arts and culture. So join in, and we will look forward to your comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship. As everyone has said, it has a very quiet time for committee meetings and that. We do get started again later this week, but so I did have the chance to just enjoy a nice quiet Christmas and New Year's and stayed very close to home. And just take this opportunity to wish everybody all the best in 2021 and look forward to what 2021 has to share with us.
Thank you. Councillor Fitzsimmons.
Thank you, Your Worship. Like everyone else, it was an incredibly quiet Christmas. My first Christmas in 19 years without my youngest son, which was, obviously difficult to deal with that. But we have to do what we have to do right now. And picking up on Councillor Hawking's point, I feel like people are letting their guard down a bit all of a sudden. And, I'm seeing it around town and in different places. And we just need to pick our socks up a little bit and stay healthy, be vigilant, follow our provincial guidelines, because the finish line is in sight. We just have to, buckle down a little bit longer. So I wish everybody safety and health and do that just a little bit better, I think.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Hicks.
Thank you, Your Worship. Like everyone else, I was able to enjoy a little bit of relaxation over the Christmas break. But we're now back at it full tilt, and the meetings seem to be endless. Fast and furious, it seems. I can advise that just today, Dr. Era has constituted the Grey Bruce vaccination distribution task force. So that body will be meeting. I will be on that task force. That body will be meeting. And I'm really, really pleased. I don't know if others have seen the proposals that have been coming out from Dr. Era and the health unit. It's been fantastic and extremely well received across the province, provincially. We are one of only 2 health units that have been approved to date to receive vaccinations. All of the other sites have pretty much been in hospitals. So that's kudos to Dr. Era and his team and the health unit. So we'll be very busy over the next short while. That's it, Your Worship.
Good, thank you. I can say ditto. I've had 2 meetings, both emergency control group meetings, one for Hanover and one for the county. And I just want to say it was nice to have a break, time to relax and re-energize and get ready for 2021 and see what it brings. So thank you. So staff, Brian.
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, I mean, it was quiet, it was good and relaxed, and we got snow on Christmas Day. What else could you ask for? I just want to advise council, or remind council and advise the public that on January 18th at 4 p.m., our consultants will be presenting growth plan phase 2 investigation report to this point. In particular, they're going to be focusing on the investigation that they've done on the special policy areas in Hanover and how that's led to a proposed official plan amendment. So that'll be really interesting. The other thing too is that the consultants have also done some extensive consultations with neighboring municipalities, the counties, the province. And all that information will be coming out as well. And again, it'll be presented virtually. The Zoom link will be advertised. So again, I encourage everybody to participate, because at the end of the day, this is really the beginning of our strategic objectives to restructure Hanover, in particular, investigate boundary expansions. So again, it's going to be very interesting. I encourage everybody to participate. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Chris Walker.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've been busy working on grant fund applications. I had to put in that resilience stream funding by January 7th. Been working with the MTEC that you looked at today, working with SMART on their gas tax funding. We're currently working on the 2020 year-end entries and getting all those final invoices done. Obviously the 2021 budgeting, updating all that information. We're working with our Benton group. They're working on an RFP. Hopefully by the end of February, they'll have all the design in place. In the interim, we have to look at doing a designated substance study for the areas to make sure we don't have any asbestos, because that would have to be abated prior to doing any of the other. So those are the steps we have to take along the way right now. Other than that, it was nice to have a break.
Right, thank you. Dawn Tedford.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, it was really good to have a break, and I'd like to just say that it's back busy again. Though it's we got 4 applications in today for semis to be built. We do have a set of preliminary drawings for the JDSS that I've just started to review and look at. We had footings dug today for a 4-plex down in East Side, or not East Side, down in Cedar East. And it's the time of year when the construction has to be rather orchestrated. There has to be a conductor there making sure when they dig, the frost don't get at the ground that's been exposed, that they get the footings poured and they get the straw back and they put the dirt back. And they did very well today. I must admit that everybody there seemed to be knowing what they're doing. It was a good to watch. The road gets a little muddy though. I did pass that on to Mr. Cooper. The McEwens are still waiting for their trusses, and hopefully they'll be here, they said, by the middle of January. The permit materials seem to be it's a COVID thing now, where most of your industry with regards to plumbing equipment or parts, or whether it's electrical or whatever, the factories have got to do their social distancing the same as everybody else has, and their productions have probably went down enough that they were trying to stay ahead. But I think nowadays that's probably got caught up to everybody with regards to there's just no product there, and then they're trying to make it maybe as quick as they can. Lastly, I'd just like to reiterate Brian's comments about January the 18th, 21, the special council meeting, or the public meeting for our growth phase 2. It's a very important meeting, and it'd be good to see a lot of people participate and find out what it's all about. So I'd just like to support Brian on that January 18th date. And thank you very much, and I hope everybody has a good 2021. It looks like it's going to be as busy, but we'll have to just wait and see. Thank you.
Thanks, Dawn. Sherry Walden. We've lost Sherry.
Oh, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry. Thank you, Your Worship. I could hear Don, and I wasn't sure if it was his internet causing the funky voice I was hearing or mine. So anyways, sorry about that.
That's okay.
So a few things actually. Certainly we've been dealing with the lockdown outfall, I guess I would say, and that has been something we dealt with before Christmas and we're continuing to deal with. I took the opportunity last week to go out on our trails and walk. I walked from 7th Street to Exceldor, and I don't know who enjoyed it more, myself or my dog. His tail was just a wagging the whole time, I have to tell you. But just a few reminders to our residents who are out on our trails, and it's very evident that people are out there because there's a great path that is worn, that we do not have any winter maintenance on our trails. Not to say you can't use them, but we do not have any winter maintenance, and they are a use at your own risk. I certainly encourage you that you're going to need a good pair of winter boots with a good tread on our trails at this time of year. There is to be no motorized vehicles on our trails. That includes snowmobiles. There's evidence that there are snowmobiles on our trails and in some of our parks, so just that reminder. And Wrigley, my dog, would like to just remind everybody that dogs are supposed to stay on leash, and their owners are supposed to stoop and scoop. We saw some evidence that that maybe is not happening, and he wasn't real happy to see that, nor was I, to be honest. Al Morrow at our cultural roundtable meeting last week noted that his personally administered Facebook page, Hanover Remembers, which is really an opportunity for former Hanover residents, current Hanover residents to kind of connect and reminisce, etc. And there's always great photos posted. It has grown by 1,000 members since the pandemic started. So that just goes to show how virtually people are connecting. So kudos to Al for the work that he puts into that. And if you happen to look it up on Facebook, you know, he is fairly particular about who he allows to become a member of that for obvious reason. It's meant to be kind of that reminiscing and positive Facebook page. Just as we look ahead, we are looking ahead to Family Day, and we are looking at plans for COVID-friendly activities that are being confirmed. So I would say stay tuned. There's some really exciting things in the preliminary stages that I don't want to let the cat out of the bag quite yet. And the other thing that I would mention is we are confirming, once we get that okay to reopen, if we get that okay to reopen, our alternate options for our winter swim lessons. Our winter swim lessons were to start the week of January the 18th. And then we have advanced aquatic leadership courses as well that were to start last week. So we have got alternative plans in place. We're just finalizing those. And I would encourage anybody who's A, already registered, or B, thinking of registering, to watch the Hanover website for updated information about those programs. And lastly, I just want to thank our PRC staff team and our patrons, who once again are demonstrating their flexibility and adaptability and resilience. It's kind of been our buzzwords for a very long time, but they've been troopers. And as I've said before, I'm grateful for our team and our patrons, and I will continue to kind of sing their praises. They're really a great bunch of people. That's it, unless there's any questions.
Thank you, Sherry. Okay, Chief Deniger.
Thank you, Your Worship. So we've been working hard and getting a lot of the 2020 reports completed for emergency management, the health and safety reports that we reviewed tonight, as well as fire documentation for the OFM. We had a new recruit class start last week, and that's been going well. They have a lot of work ahead of them. We were quiet over the holidays for calls, which was nice for the firefighters to get a little bit of a break. I think we only had a couple of calls, which was really nice. We're continuing to meet bi-weekly for our own emergency management group, and then having emergency meetings when necessary, potentially this week after tomorrow's announcement. We had a busy December for health and safety with a lot of the planning to get ready for 2021. I'm attending bi-weekly calls with the Grey County Emergency Management Coordinators, and our new pickup that was ordered in 2020 has been sent away for lights and siren install, so we're anxious to get it back and in service as quickly as possible.
Good, thank you. Ron Cooper.
Thank you, Worship. I guess just for those that were dreaming of the white Christmas, it magically happened on Christmas Eve, and everyone was able to wake up to snow Christmas morning. So that has made some extra work for my public works guys that I know were busy starting Christmas Day and kind of right through with some activities through to New Year's. Things have obviously lightened up since then. Looking at some more snow maybe coming up later this week, but definitely been a light winter, that's for sure. In terms of the wastewater treatment, that construction project, there was about a 2.5 week shutdown. The contractor hasn't worked on it since just before Christmas, but was back. Activity can start on that project again this week. So that's going to continue through the winter and into the spring. So just some updates on some activities, and thanks to my public works guys for the effort they put in between Christmas and New Year's. I'm sure it was much appreciated by the residents. Thank you.
It was, thank you. Okay, so that's it for the updates. So moving on, item 13, planning and zoning matters. 13.1, the next planning advisory committee is Tuesday, January 26th at 5 p.m.
Your worship.
Yes,
Did Chris go?
Chris Walker?
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed her then.
you did, right, Chris? You talked about all the different grants and
Yeah, you're right. Sorry.
Correct.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
yes, okay.
I don't have any more work that I have to talk about.
I was going to say how busy you are. So, okay, next planning advisory committee meeting is Tuesday, January 26th at 5 p.m. Dates to remember and announcements. As was said earlier, the special council meeting for the local growth management strategy, is Monday, January 18th at 4 p.m., which will be virtual. The next committee of the whole meeting is Monday, February 1st at 7 p.m. The municipal office will be closed, which it is now, but you can call in and get information, is Monday, February 15th, and that is Family Day. The next regular council meeting is Tuesday, February 16th at 7 p.m. And at this time, I'll ask, are there any notices of motion? Deputy Mayor Hicks.
Sorry, Your Worship, no notice of motion. I just wonder if I could take the chance to ask Councillor Hawking about that information session on the 21st. Was that at 7 p.m.?
Yes, yes.
And will there be meeting information like a Zoom connection that will be sent out?
Yes, and if you go, did you get a copy of the Facebook item that we put on social media from April?
I haven't been on Facebook in forever.
Okay, I'll make sure that that goes out to all councillors.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe it's also going to be advertised in the Post.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay.
But we'll make sure everyone gets an individual copy.
Right. Okay. All right. So no notices of motion and no closed meeting this evening. We have one final motion. That is the adjournment, and it's resolution number 08-21 to adjourn at 8:13. I need a mover and a seconder. Deputy Mayor Hicks and Councillor Fleet. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Good meeting, everyone. Glad to see everyone again, too. So have a good one. Take care.
You won, Your Worship.
Well, maybe.
Bye all.